Don't miss West Ham versus Liverpool on Super Sunday. Live only on Sky Sports.
And you're welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk. John Duggan with you through until 5. This is Football Saturday. Remember, football and Off the Ball brought to you by Sky. Catch the biggest live Premier League games every weekend on Sky Sports. You can text us 53106, tweet us at Off the Ball. We're streaming live as well. You can listen on News Talk and also watch us on the Off the Ball digital and social channels for Periscope on Twitter at Off the Ball, YouTube, Facebook, and on the OTB Sports app for iOS and Android. Search OTB Sports in your app store now to download it if you haven't already. We're joined by the former Republic of Ireland and Liverpool defender Mark Lawrenson, football correspondent of the Irish Independent Dan McDonnell, and the broadcaster and journalist Johnny Ward to talk about the beautiful game. Manchester United, Manchester City is the only place to start. It's 2-0 win for City. So goals by Eric Bailly, an own goal in 7 minutes. That was the first one. And then Bernardo Silva getting the second just before half-time. 67% possession for City. 5 shots on target to United's 1. It's not very surprising, I don't think, what happened. We're going to hear from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Pep Guardiola. And first Roy Keane, because Roy Keane was on Sky Sports there reacting to Phil Foden saying after the game that Old Trafford is a tough place to go.
It felt worse. I think the goal in half-time, of course, game all over. City, different type of team to Liverpool. They were quite happy just to keep the ball, and they just toyed with United. Really, it's so poor. The difference in class, quality, decision making, everything. It was, I know the old saying, it was men v boys, but United are so off it. It's unbelievable. You know, 4 dimensions there. It's a tough place to come. It's not. Ask Everton. That's Aston Villa, that's Liverpool. Teams have come here, they're getting a bit of joy now. I know United's away record over the last couple of seasons has been fantastic, but ultimately it's what you do at home that gives you that foundation to try and compete and go on and win trophies, because United still always have the quality even away from home. But their home form, their performance, the goal at half-time has killed it, you know. And United just need to go in at half-time 1-0, regroup, try and do something. The second goal, it's game over. And United, I don't know what I'm going to say. It's just so poor. It's just so poor. And again, we go back to it. I look for characters. McTominay, Fred. McTominay, and all, he's learning his trade. Fred is a midfield. These players aren't good enough for Manchester United. Defensively, even the first goal, I wasn't shocked when Bailly just sliced that into it. He's got that in him. He's erratic. He slices at things. But it was so comfortable for Man City. Foden's getting interviewed there after the game. The way I look at a player after the game, when you've played in a derby game, you should be drained, you should be exhausted, you should have no energy left. He's chatting there as if he just had a practice game.
Mark Lawrenson, not surprising.
No, not at all. And you would agree with everything that Roy said, most definitely. But, you know, the thing is, as well, John, is you know how Manchester City play. They play without a recognised striker, false number 9, call it what you will. So they just absolutely, totally dominate midfield. Therefore, they dominate the ball. Therefore, they dominate the game. But, you know, Manchester United sit there with 5 at the back and they're not doing anything. It's like, OK, so Wan-Bissaka pushes on a little bit and left-back pushes on a little bit. But the 3 centre-backs, you know, there's no need for 3 centre-backs. You can actually push 2 into midfield, almost like as a shield if you wanted, and just have 1 centre-back, because they don't have a centre-forward. And I honestly, you sit there watching it and we go, wow, about Manchester City, and quite rightly, the passing, the pace of the passing, the movement, absolutely brilliant. But it looked like they had 14 men to Manchester United's 11. And I really don't get it. I mean, I don't know what the brains trust that Manchester United is doing there, looking at these games. You've got to chuck loads of people into midfield to stop Manchester City having the ball. I mean, I just think it really is that simple. If you just sit back, got a line of 3, sometimes 5, and you think, oh, we're all right, because they're just going to play across us and all that. But they do for a while, then bang, somebody will see an opening, and there's such good passes and such good movement. And they're in. In all honesty, in the first half, it could have been 4 or 5, quite easily. And you just wonder where Manchester United go from there after today's performance. Second half as well was just the same. And while the plaudits obviously will go to Manchester City, Manchester United just looking a complete and utter mess. And I think that I said the other day that after forget about the performance at Tottenham, which was good, it would be more of a performance or looking at the performance against Atalanta that would be the one, because obviously completely different, and Tottenham were awful last Sunday or Saturday night, whenever it was. And indeed it was. Atalanta, I mean, it's they scraped a 2-2 last-minute equaliser, Manchester United. And the problems are still there. And what they do now, I don't know. I mean, it's obviously international week, isn't it, next weekend? That might be really bad for the manager, because that means that the management behind the scenes at Manchester United, I'm not talking about the football side now, obviously, your Edward Woodward and those kind of people will no doubt be having a chat and saying, well, if we're going to do it and say thanks but no thanks, this is maybe the time, because you've got 2 weeks to get a new manager in because of the international weekend. International weekend.
Won't be Antonio Conte anyway.
Antonio Conte, they missed the ball with him. Yeah.
Eddie in Limerick's been in touch. 53106. Old Trafford has become a place for footballers to make loads of money for not trying to play anymore. Wasn't Ollie a fan, says Michael in Louth, but I think he's way out of his depth now, playing inconsistent players like Sean Maguire week in, week out. How does that make for a happy dressing room? His loyalty to certain players has cost him his job. Well, his job is still there. But Johnny Ward, something's got to give, because of sort of the coaching, the formation, which they've changed now in the last week, whether it's the manager, whether it's leadership among the players. Something's got to change, because it's Groundhog Day.
It's Groundhog Day, yeah, JD, exactly. I think they had 4 touches in the Manchester City box. It was very, very predictable what happened today. As Lauro said there, the Spurs game was a complete outlier in terms of how Man United have been playing. The 2 Atalanta games, the Liverpool game and other league games in the recent times, they've been very poor. And I thought against Atalanta during the week, it really summed up Man United at the moment, in that they were saved by Ronaldo in terms of how utterly brilliant he is inside the box. But at the same time, you could see that if you're playing Ronaldo 3 times in the space of a week in 3 very demanding games, it kind of smacks of desperation, because you don't do that with a 36-year-old striker, particularly when you're coming into a derby game involving a situation where you're not going to have the ball for much of it. And I think in the first 15-20 minutes, Man United had, in the final third, I think they had about something like 5% of the time in the final third. This was a complete man against boys performance. And I don't think City were anywhere near their best. I think they were kind of, more or less in second or third gear throughout the game. Interestingly, afterwards as well, you're kind of looking for the reaction from the fans, because Manchester United fans have been amazingly loyal to managers, I think, in relative terms, since Alex Ferguson left. In general, they've given managers time. But you could sort of sense after the game that there was quite a bit of booing. It was an utterly insipid performance. And I think what's interesting as well is a lot of the whole Manchester United story of 2021 has been around nostalgia. Ronaldo coming back, Fergie having something of a role or not role in the background, and pining for the old days. This was utterly depressing. It was a game played at a stupid time, 12:30 on a Saturday. Derby game should not be played at 12:30 in the morning. There was absolutely no atmosphere. It sounded like a friendly game where everyone was bored. The game was over after 10 minutes, and it was a depressing experience from a Man United fan. And I don't really see Solskjaer surviving beyond Christmas, because at the moment they're not going anywhere. They're going backwards fast. And funny enough, JD, Solskjaer was actually well able to equip Man United in previous season to deal with Man City and to use pace on the break. Man United don't even have pace on the break anymore. They have Ronaldo up front, and they're relying on a guy who's 36. He's causing problems elsewhere, and they were insipid today. They were absolutely pathetic.
I get a lot of confusion when I look at Man United, Dan, whether it's the coaching. I don't know. I know you got Fermanagh, Kieran McKenna there with Michael Carrick, and you got Mike Phelan, and then you saw Solskjaer. I don't know from one week to the next what we're going to see. I love the chaos, I love the entertainment of it, but eventually it begins to get to a situation where they might not even get top 4.
Yeah, no, I mean, I suppose it is. I think that's probably well, if it looked like that wasn't going to be the case, if you could build up the body of evidence, you thought, well, this is definitely going to be an issue, then that's probably what would drive the change, because I think it's probably acknowledged that, the Glazers and the ownership there, the sort of there's that vibe, isn't it, that they're just content enough once they're in the top 4. So, if anything was going to really bring about a change, you would think it would be that being in threat. But I know what you're saying. Like, is this, what's the cause. I mean, like, there has been an entertainment value to the games. As Johnny said today, it wasn't necessarily the case. It was over so early. Like, they got praise last week for going to Spurs and being quite compact and executing the job, and they sort of tried to do something similar today. But when you concede a goal from a cross after 5 minutes, then you're in real bother. And it was sort of almost a damage limitation exercise in parts. You know, what was different between that and the Liverpool game? Well, they didn't go chasing it, so it didn't get opened up to the same degree, but it was almost as emphatic a defeat, really, in real terms. And I think, yeah, like, it's clearly, like, in these situations the manager eventually goes, because it's that whole thing of, do you change the players or do you change the manager? You know, it's easier to change the manager if you think that you've assembled and you've spent a lot of money on assembling this squad of players. But you would have to say as well, like, even just the basic sort of application, just like the second goal, I think in particular, is one where if you're playing that way against a team who's going to have a lot of the ball, they're going to try and get balls into the box, switch to play, and you're expecting a team to be alert and able to deal with that. And if you're being picked apart by a better side, you sort of, I think you'd want to be conceding goals of brilliance, when actually the 2 goals today were as much about the defending as they were about. I know that City just wear teams down because they keep it for so long and they force errors, and that's why things happen. Because you're second best for so long that eventually the concentration goes and those mistakes happen. But I don't know. It's entertaining to a point, and I'm sure there will be more chaos, but there's only so many times you can have this recurring discussion, like, that's the thing. I mean, it's not really a huge amount different to what we were saying 2 weeks ago, and probably even last week before the Spurs game. And yeah, I mean, look at Spurs since then have changed their manager and have a completely different club vibe.
The sun is shining now.
Yeah,
for Tottenham, and
that's a slide. Was that only 7 days ago?
Yeah, well, that's it. And thanks for that, Tottenham, last week for losing so badly. Patrick's been in touch on 53106. If Ollie has not been sacked up to this point, I doubt he will be. The powers that be have obviously decided to keep him until the end of the season. They must have someone else lined up, possibly Poch. I'm just thinking about the dressing room here, Mark Lawrenson. Ronaldo, Harry Maguire, all these players. Like, I know Pogba's not involved, but Bruno Fernandes. Like, what is the dressing room? Can they not just take this whole situation by the scruff of the neck, because United were just so listless?
Well, obviously not. It would appear that there's a lack of leaders in there, and one thing that, in fairness to Roy Keane, that he said before that we didn't have on the audio, was the fact that, go and smash into somebody in the tackle. And I mean, Johnny's absolutely right that there's no atmosphere at these lunchtime games. They're awful, they're horrible things to play, and everyone's still half asleep, including the players. But, it's a derby. I didn't really see a foul where you thought, well, he's really gone in there to give it to somebody. There was none of that. And it was almost like, it was like Man United watching Man City paint pretty pictures all the way around them with the ball. And I think about the dressing room. I mean, Ronaldo, does he have his say? I would have thought so. But he will look upon it from his point of view in terms of, being a striker and getting the ball up to him. He'll be moaning like hell today because hardly had any chances whatsoever. Maguire, when he apologised after the Liverpool game, it was like a polite sort of, oh, we're really, really sorry. And, I mean, you can only go back to your own time and stuff like that. And if that would have happened to our Liverpool team in the mid-'80s when Souness was there, well, there'd have been scraps in the dressing room. There would have been an absolute ruction. We'd have closed the door, get rid of the management staff, and we'd have sorted it out. But it just doesn't happen that, John, anymore. And I'm loath to mention the money, but the money has got something to do with it, because you're basically making these guys absolutely, totally untouchable. And I thought the irony about today as well, when Van der Beek came on and did a couple of decent things, that the crowd went mad. It was like, where's this fella come from? We haven't seen him for such a long, long time. But the dressing room, really, in top sides, the dressing room sorts everything out. It sorts out problems on the pitch. problems off the pitch. You know, I'm just going back to like the John Terrys at Chelsea. I would say.
But look at Liverpool now. Like in Liverpool now, Henderson, Milner, these types of characters.
All of them. All of Van Dijk will have his say. That the goalkeeper has his say, and all those kinds of things. And you know, the great thing for a manager when that happens is it's like lighting the blue touch paper and just retiring a little bit and like thinking, go on then, you know, because the other thing as well is as everybody knows now, if you're the manager and you slaughter one of your players, you get the agent onto you within the next 20 minutes about he's not very happy, he wants to leave and all that rubbish. But so it's very, very difficult. Klopp seems to have a way of doing it. I think Tuchel as well, it looks like he has. So, and Guardiola, the top, look, there's the thing. So Guardiola, Klopp, Tuchel, Solskjaer. I mean, you're talking about 3 absolutely top-class managers and a fella who's still learning his trade. And he's an absolutely lovely, lovely bloke. But he's still learning his trade. Now, do you be the manager? I think he's coming up nearly 3 years at Manchester United, and you're still learning your trade and you spent hundreds of millions of pounds? I really, really don't get it. And I hate it when managers get sacked because it's really, really tough. But you just look at them now and you say they're an absolute total mess in the way they're set up. The way they're set up is just I just can't believe the way they're set up. They're just making it so easy for the opposition.
Let's hear from him now. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
Very difficult to talk now, of course, because we started the game off badly, of course, passive, and when they get the first goal, it was always going to be a difficult game anyway. But of course, being 1-0 down was hard. David kept us in the game, some good stops, and then they scored the goals they always score. Cancelo cuts inside, cross-back stick, that we know that's going to happen, and it shouldn't happen.
You said we were so passive today. We spoke beforehand. The message was be on the front foot. We've got to get after them. What happened?
Yes. Well, they played well. Of course, they don't give you opportunities to win the ball off them. So some praise got to go to them as well. But of course, we were not at our level and standard. They need to be raised.
Particularly after the first goal, was there a nervousness about your players? A lack of confidence? Did that show?
Yeah, I think I think the whole place went a little bit. Of course, you're disappointed with the first goal, but we didn't play well up until then either, because we still don't trust ourselves with the ball. We still don't pass the ball as well as I know they can. So, and we don't find the angles, and sometimes that is also the team you play against. As I say, they do press really well, and they made it hard for us, but we sometimes made the wrong solution, sometimes the right solution, but not the right execution.
Johnny, I was listening to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer before the game talking about we're Man United, we're the big club in Manchester, and I'm hearing him now saying we don't trust ourselves with the ball. To me, Johnny, he's run out of answers.
Yeah, a long time ago probably. You know, I mean, I didn't hear the interview before the game, to be honest, but was anyone ever even remotely contemplating the concept of Manchester United being on the front foot against Man City? They're absolutely miles off them. And this has been evident in games against inferior opposition. You know, Liverpool had them hit 4 in the first half or whatever. Since then they've kind of refined their system a bit, where he's probably sort of fallen on this 3 at the back to give a bit more sort of cover in areas where they're not completely brutally exposed. But you were looking at it today, they had 5 players. They were effectively playing something like I don't know, what would you say, 7-2-1 or something like that. So they had 5 defenders. The wing-backs were totally pushed back. The 2 sitting midfielders couldn't get on the ball at all. Ronaldo, again, obviously, and this was, you know, the stats back this all up in recent years in Italy. If Ronaldo isn't in the box, he's not really going to be doing much because he's just not capable anymore. And he obviously struggled. So you take almost Ronaldo out of the game, apart from his one shot at goal, which I think was their only real chance in the game. So when you don't have the ball against the likes of Man City, and and you have like effectively you're carrying a couple of players. Pogba obviously suspended today, but the likes of Ronaldo, it's very, very difficult. You're kind of playing with 10.5 players out of possession, if even that. And I think that was probably one of the concerns with Ronaldo, and maybe the concept at the time, JD, was that this could be the signing that will be Ronaldo signing his Solskjaer signing his effective death warrant, because he seemed to be under kind of pressure in some respects to sign Ronaldo. But if he does bring Ronaldo in and Ronaldo kind of has to play, that sort of flies in the face of the system that Man United had last season, when to my mind they had a pretty good season. They had an awful lot of pace on the break and they were able to absorb pressure against the likes of Man City. Whereas now, today, the pattern of the game was set after 1 minute, where City got the ball and basically just had the ball for 90 minutes and were toying with Man United. And as Dan said there about the hierarchy in terms of how important is it for Manchester United to be winning things now, who knows? But it is important, I think, that they get into the Champions League. And as it is now, there's absolutely no way they'll get into the Champions League the way they're playing, because the 3 teams ahead of them are certain to finish ahead of them. So they have to finish ahead of everyone else, including the resurgent Spurs, Arsenal, the likes of West Ham. And the way they're playing at the moment, with the Ronaldo situation as it is, they're going to be dropping points week to week. No question. And the issue for the manager who comes in is, how does he deal with Ronaldo? Because if you brought Klopp or Guardiola in as Manchester United manager tomorrow, Ronaldo would become the number one thing that you have to deal with, maybe then Pogba. But they can't play Ronaldo at this level regularly. And as much as he's doing well, they can't play him for it not to upset the balance of everything else. And you can see the confidence is basically draining out of all the other players.
53106, lots of texts coming in on Manchester United. I want to comment on the thank God United have Ronaldo narrative. He may be scoring, but it's at the expense of the other attacking players rather than adding to what they have. I can't think of another attacking player where that is the case, says Owen. Dressing room cannot sort out lack of a commanding presence in midfield. Being the problem the last decade, forget titles. If not for Ronaldo's goals, United would be out of the Champions League already, says Brian. Lads, embarrassing really. Also the fact of City not making a sub compounds terrible. The prolonged inevitable will have to be done. We love Ale, but... And once City go ahead, it's almost impossible to come back. They just keep the ball and pass you to death, says Pat. Ronaldo coming to Dublin on Thursday, of course.
Yeah, he is, yeah. I don't know, was it Johnny or Laura made a reference to him playing 3 games in a week? Maybe it was Johnny is thinking, is he going to be tired or fatigued coming Thursday? It's like, nah, I don't really think so. I think when it comes to playing for Portugal or just Ronaldo in general, he'll be all right. I mean, it is sort of, you are watching that game there today and you're looking at Cancelo on the left side and Bruno Fernandes, and you're sort
Bernardo
of thinking,
Silva.
Yeah, Bernardo Silva, of course, as well. And actually, like when you think about it, Ireland playing Portugal in Faro a couple of months back, like they did play similar system to what Manchester United played today. Got done by 2 crosses in the end, as it happened, but sort of actually kept them at arm's length for a long period of time, and actually. It was actually the ability to be smart and break well, and realise that sort of Portugal were a little bit imbalanced, and Cancelo would bomb on and there was space behind it. They did all right with it, but he is going to be here on Thursday in a full stadium, but that'll be good. I'm sure we'll probably talk about that later on, probably in some shape or form. But I was just looking at Manchester United's fixtures there long term, and I know they've like they've lost to Aston Villa this year, so you can't just look at the table and go, oh, they'll beat them. But you look at when you get out of this this run, like they've 3 away games in a week after the international break. It's Watford, Villarreal and Chelsea. Now you think playing away for them isn't such a bad thing in some respects at the moment. The 3 home games in a week, which is Arsenal, Crystal Palace and the Young Boys game. But you sort of look at their fixtures through December, January, like they actually don't play another top 4 team until they play City again on the 5th of March.
More false dawns ahead then.
Like there is the scope for that to happen. Like you look at their fixture list, it's not massively intimidating. Like they've lost some big games in recent times, but it's around March, April again where they almost have the return of all those fixtures. And actually in the sort of intervening period, there's a lot of games that again on paper and you're thinking, I mean, they're going to spend naturally because of the ability of the players. They're going to spend more time on the ball, more time around the box, more time for Ronaldo to do things, and possibly is going to create that sort of false dawn situation that it kicks the can down the road. It's what gets them to the end of the season, but doesn't necessarily get you out of this rut.
53106, McFred midfield, not clearly good enough. There must be a Liverpool fan. Dave and Clare adds, great, keep Ollie at the wheel. Lads, the end is surely now. No tactics, no game plan, no in-game management. Awful. Who do you see as a replacement realistically, asked David in Cork. Laro, if Solskjaer does go, who would United be best to snap up?
Well, unless they're going to go and actually buy a manager, John, who and where and what and how, who are you going to get? So, you know, I mean, if who is there?
Brendan Rodgers?
Who?
Brendan Rodgers?
I wouldn't be the biggest fan of Brendan Rodgers. I think Brendan knows. Brendan, say again.
Why not, Laura?
I think there's a little bit. There's no iron team for me. And would he be able to solve the problem? I'm not sure. I think he's at the right club for him, most definitely. I just don't see where they would go. I mean, if anybody at the moment, you'd want Moisey back, would you not?
Nah, come on, Laro.
Well, no, I'm half joking, but what I'm saying is you'd have him back basically because he would sort all this out. I mean, he never really got the time there, and he never was going to get the time because he was the first one after.
But did he not have the gravitas? Was there a gravitas issue with Moyes and Man United?
No, I think the issues were that Vidic, within the second day, Vidic told him that he'd verbally agreed to go and play. I think it was in Italy. Evra was going as well, and Rio Ferdinand just said to him that he was struggling in terms of the pace of the game. So he lost three of the back four within 2 or 3 days. There was a little bit like, you know, you're coming from Everton and you're telling us how to play, but there always will be. But I just honestly don't know, John, who they would go and get. I really seriously don't.
Yeah, some people are texting in Eric Ten Hag, Luis Enrique, Pochettino. If PSG doesn't work out, and it might not, because if they don't win the Champions League.
Yeah, you take him, and I think he would definitely sort them out. He's obviously had a really good relationship with his players at Tottenham, and relative, because everything's relative, he did a good job, and he wouldn't be frightened of the fact that it's you know, the massive football club that Manchester United is. But it's a watch this space thing, because generally when you get the international window, it does give people at the football club a chance to have a little look round and think, well, you know, if we identified somebody and we could get him, he'll be here obviously before the end of the international games and stuff, and we'll have a few days to get used to the place, the people, all those kind of things, and to get on with the job. But I don't know, it just seems to go from bad to worse. I can't believe today with Manchester United, forget about all the stuff about, you know, the way they played insofar as technically and, you know, the way they were set up and all those kind of things. There was just no urgency. There was no, I said to you at the start, nobody wanted to rattle somebody, you know, and that's, if you're playing against somebody and basically they're taking the PISS out of you, which City did, you'd be rattling one or two people, you know, supposedly within the laws of the game, as it were. Even if you took a yellow, you'd do it. But it was it was a real after you, Claude, performance.
Chelsea 0, Burnley 0 in the Premier League. Kai Havertz has actually just gone into the crowd there. It looks pretty.
He was absolutely. He was running at full tilt, and he just sort of got pushed, and the momentum took him properly into the crowd. More ferocity into the crowd than Eric Cantona back in the day. He just didn't mean. He just didn't mean to do it. But yeah, he looks pretty sore actually. Yeah, it took him a while. They had to actually the fans had to shout to James Tarkowski, who wasn't the guy who pushed him, but to alert him to the fact that Havertz was still there, because he'd gone so far off the pitch, people had actually hadn't realised he was there. But yeah, quite gingerly getting himself up.
We had some Brentford 0, Norwich 2. Matthias Norman and Timo Pukki with a penalty. Norwich finally scoring some goals, and Brentford a little bit of a blip at the moment after their brilliant start to the Premier League season. It is also Crystal Palace 0, Wolves 0. Manchester City, by the way, folks, did win today. Let's hear now from their manager, Pep Guardiola.
Spoke to an understandably delighted Phil Foden. He felt that your team today played the game of their lives. What would you say?
He said?
They played the game of their lives.
More to come. This is so young. We will play more games live. Yeah, for our, you know, the City Blues. So we know all of us how important it is. Yeah, we had here in Old Trafford always made a good performance, and in general since we are together, and we won many times, much more than Eddie at the stadium. Yeah, solid performance and a good game, deserved victory, and yeah, 3 more points.
That might be congratulations from City fans. You always want more, but how good were your team today?
Well, we spoke about, it's a team, the transition team, and we thought we have to put the ball in the fridge. So a lot of passes, and in the last moment we arrived there, and after look the situations. We said if they jam to try to find and after contact with the wingers, but they didn't jam in the first half, a little more in the second one, but not much. And our players in the middle, and except 10 minutes the second half, and we lose. Stupid balls, the rest was really good.
How important was the movement of your players today?
Move the ball. Looks like it's the movement the players, but the move is the ball. That is the people believe, oh, how they move. No. But the move is the ball. Everybody has to be in the position. When you move much, it's not good.
Pep Guardiola there. Dan, Kai Havertz is okay now.
He's not just alive, he's just scored a goal with his head. Yeah, Chelsea have just, it's 33 minutes into this game, and as we know, sort of Burnley can be difficult to break down, but they've just moved the ball quickly, fashioning it out to Reece James, I think it was, on the right hand side. Really good sort of pacey cross, and Havertz has slipped between 2 defenders to glance it home. So I don't think it's the subject of VAR thing. I don't think he was offside. He was just straddled it there, but he was absolutely fine, I think, and it's 1-0. Yeah.
It's a bit like Alexander-Arnold and Robertson with Chelsea's wing-backs at the moment, isn't it? Laro Chilwell and James scoring for fun, and another assist there for James.
Yeah, no, they look really, really good. And from England's point of view, they got an abundance of right-backs, but they're very, very creative as well, both players. And, which England just seems to be able to breed kind of fullbacks for fun. And James, he's starting to score loads of goals, isn't he? I mean, was Chilwell, did he go 4 straight as well?
Yeah, he did, yeah.
As well. And when he looked as though he was a little bit of a nowhere man because he couldn't get in the team. So he's obviously been training hard, etc., got his chance and taken it, and he's in for good for now. So, but that's what you get at the very top level, because, there's probably at Chelsea, well, there isn't. I'm not saying not probably. Every position has 2 players. And there's not much or too much difference between the quality of every single player for that position. So perfect, obviously, for Chelsea. I thought they might struggle a little bit today with Burnley, but obviously with them going 1-0 up, it may not be the case.
Guardiola, did you learn anything from watching City today? Like De Bruyne has been a little bit out of sorts because he's played a lot of games. He had that injury in the Champions League final and an ankle problem from the Euros. Did he do well today? How did they perform in general? Apart from United, we know how bad United were, but...
Well, the thing with these guys, De Bruyne basically was arguably probably the best midfield player in the world for, I don't know, a year, 2, maybe even 3. I know probably the boys will have a different take on that than me, but I just think he's brilliant. He sees things that other people don't see. And the thing is, John, when you're just 10% off, it's like, he's not the same. He's not doing this and he's not doing that, and all those kind of things. He's an unbelievable player, and I just say that if you said right tomorrow, if Guardiola says, you know what, he's for sale, De Bruyne, every single team, every top team in the world would take him in a heartbeat, because he just makes things happen. And he was very, very good today, and City were very, very good. But again, you've got to go back to Manchester United. They never laid a glove on anybody. All the game. I'm a big fan of De Bruyne. I just think he's absolutely fabulous. He's got to be the best passer in the Premier League. Got to be. As I said to you before, he sees passes where nobody else sees them. And by the way, he executes them as well.
Okay, 53106, got to take a break here. Back with Mark Lawrenson, Dan McDonnell and Johnny Ward shortly on Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk.
Off the Ball on News Talk. Alive and Kicking.
This week on Alive and Kicking, Charles Bonnet syndrome, the phenomenon of hallucinating when blind. The best-selling author Andy Cope, who has a PhD in happiness, on the daily habits which help us to flourish.
Alive and kicking.
With Benelin Day and Night tablets. Always read the label. Ask your pharmacist for advice.
That's Alive and Kicking with me, Claire McKenna, this Sunday morning from 8.
On News Talk.
When it comes to vans, the Peugeot partner ticks a lot of boxes, and with up to 1,000 kg payload, it carries them too. Choose from 2 body lengths, 1 or 2 sliding side doors, up to 3 seats, 5 levels of spec, and safety features like a full steel bulkhead. With Peugeot's unique iCockpit interior and hands-free Bluetooth, the award-winning Peugeot partner is your perfect business partner. For flexible payment options and to book a test drive, visit Peugeot.ie.
Enjoy perfect dishes with Zanussi's large-capacity multi-function ovens. And when you're finished, the cleanup will be a breeze with the built-in self-cleaning function. For more information, go online to paracity.ie or call in store today.
Afternoons are easy with insuremyvan.ie, Ireland's low-cost van insurance specialist. Get your business back on the road with Insure My Van's best price guarantee. For super savings, visit insuremyvan.ie. City Financial Marketing Group Limited, trading as insuremyvan.ie, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Eurocycles Euro Baby, come on down lads, the crack is mighty.
The Eurocycles Euro Baby prices can't be bet. For bicycles and things with wheels and lots for babies, yeah.
At EurocyclesEurobaby.com, Eurocycles Eurobaby Long Mile Road and Airside Swords. Check out the massive range of electric bikes, prams, pushchairs and more.
The Eurocycles Eurobaby prices can't be bet. For bicycles and things with wheels and lots for babies, yeah.
See our product range and buy online at EurocyclesEurobaby.com.
Established 1955, modernised 1998. Survived 2020, expanded 2021. Times change, but the best businesses never stop beginning. At Bank of Ireland, you can now apply for a business current account online, and our dedicated business teams make switching banking partner easy. Search Bank of Ireland Business. Begin. Bank of Ireland is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Whatever your age or lifestyle, Vitabiotics vitamin range helps you be at your best with easy and effective nutritional support. From well man and well woman to well baby and well kid, there's a vitamin for everyone that will help boost the immune system. Vitabiotics vitamin range, available from your local pharmacy or online. Vitabiotics, the science of healthy living.
We all have a responsibility to keep children safe. Did you know that Children First Guidance promotes the protection of children from abuse and neglect? If you're concerned about a child, you should always contact TUSLA, or in an emergency, contact An Garda Síochána. If you're an organisation working with children and classed as a relevant service under the Children First Act 2015, you must have a child safeguarding statement. More information is available at gov.ie/Children First. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
Your phone rings. Who could it be?
It's just Jane.
It's not just Jane. It's your overly enthusiastic training buddy, and she's taking you on a gentle hike. You climb higher and higher, never looking back, mountain goats looking on in awe, and when you reach the top, you take out that flag of yours and give that mountain a new name.
Mount Kilimanjaro!
Freedom is calling.
It's very high.
Virgin Mobile. Bring on amazing.
T's and C's apply. See virginmobile.ie.
The Eagles live in concert.
Welcome to the Hotel California.
Celebrating 50 years of the biggest band in American history. For one incredible night at Viva Stadium, Friday, June 24th. With special guests, Little Big Town. The Eagles. Tickets from $59.50 on sale this Thursday at 9 a.m. Additional charges may apply, subject to licence.
2022 has more motoring options than ever before. And the fact is, no one power option suits everyone's needs. That's why Hyundai is ready to answer your questions and move towards a greener Ireland. Discover our 221 range, including the new Ioniq 5, Bayon and Kona, at the Hyundai Open Weekend this weekend, November 6th and 7th, at your local Hyundai dealer. Hyundai, on to better.
What would I do on holiday in Northern Ireland? Well, you could spend the day exploring Castle Cool. It's a magnificent 18th century estate. Go on a Donna Fox tour. Tell them I said hi.
They'll show you all the hidden gems in Armagh. Oh, Balahi Bakehouse do great seasonal classes, especially this time of year. Ask for Brona. I couldn't recommend it more.
When you go on holiday, you want to see it how the locals see it. Plan that much-needed getaway and get local recommendations at discovernorthernireland.com. Northern Ireland, a small step to a giant adventure. Travel advice and guidelines apply. Visit nidirect.gov.uk. Check ahead with providers.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky. All the football you love in one place. Across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.
And welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk. John Duggan with you through to 5. Remember, football and Off the Ball brought to you by Sky. Don't miss West Ham versus Liverpool on Super Sunday live only on Sky Sports. We're joined by Mark Lawrenson, the former Republic of Ireland and Liverpool defender, the football correspondent of the Irish Independent, Dan McDonnell, and the broadcaster and journalist Johnny Ward to talk about the beautiful game. You can text us 53106 or tweet us at Off the Ball. Some texts on Man U. Get Keno in there. Shake things up. If you don't want to work for the ball, you're out. Let Ole stay on as assistant, says Chris in Dublin. Not so sure if that's going to happen, Chris, but thanks for your text. As a Barca fan, I would definitely say Man United should hire Valverde as manager. He won 2 leagues with Barca. He was pragmatic and great with dealing with the big egos. He was derided at the time, but in retrospect, his time looks better and better. And Patrick has been in touch. Graham Potter is a manager that United should consider, a hungry young boss who plays a nice style of football. On 53106. Antonio Conte to Spurs. Mark Lawrenson, is it a game changer?
Yeah, I think so. They'll be super fit within the first probably month, John. Everybody knows the way that he likes to play, pushing up the wing backs nice and high that he did at Chelsea. And I think it'll be fun playing for him. I think it'll be hard work, but I think it'll be fun. I would imagine that it'll revitalise some of the players in that team. Obviously, Kane would be the big example. We get Kane, Son and Lucas Moura all starting to play well. They'll start to come up the league for me.
Is he going to get what he wants? Because that's been the issue, I think, at Tottenham, where Daniel Levy is a very powerful figure. But maybe things have changed now that the club realised that 1 trophy in 20 years, the fans were, very unhappy at the United game. Maybe Conte will get some money.
I think he'll get some money. I think he'll have agreed that in the deal, the fact that he will be able to go out and buy new players. Conte's the type of manager that if what it says in the brochure isn't actually supplied, he'll walk away. He doesn't necessarily need it. I think he's only signed for 18 months.
He has,
is that right?
That's right, yeah.
So he's sort of saying to them, well, if you mess around with me, I'll mess around with you. So no, and the way that Tottenham are, they obviously now need somebody like him to come in, because you just don't get many of them, many of his sort. He's not frightened by anybody. He'll leave anybody out. He'll ball anybody out as well. And as I said, I think, in terms of training and fitness, you watch all their, all the tests that they do. You watch, they'll be up towards the top of the league in terms of tests and running and all those kind of things.
Johnny, there's an amazing piece in The Athletic today about Conte, just about he's got a Sabutio board in the office, talking about his tantrums. Giorgio Chiellini said you'd be dead after one of the training sessions. I think it's going to be fun, whatever happens, Johnny.
Yeah, he's just got those eyes of a character who's going to have a serious role with you when you have a conversation with him. I'd say he'll turn them inside out. I mean, I don't know why it got so bad, JD. You're watching them week to week. I don't know why it got so bad when you see them, barely raising a gallop against Manchester United. It's quite shocking. But Conte's record and just his intensity, it's going to be very, very intriguing. And as bad as things are for Spurs, the one thing is that they basically either won or lost games this season. So their points tally isn't actually that bad. I would say a lot of teams who've done better than them are actually below them in the table, if that makes sense. And they have a fighting chance of the top 4, and I think that narrative is going to be really interesting now, where I think it's fairly set in stone that one of 3 teams will win the league, but there's a very good scrap for 4th place there, and I think Conte is going to transform Spurs. It'll be very interesting to see. I don't know what you think, JD, but what happens with Harry Kane now?
Well, Harry Kane's got to step up, because his value is depreciating by the second, and he's not worth 150 million anymore. And I think for his sake, whether he wants to leave the club or whether he wants to stay with Conte, he needs to start playing the way he was playing last season, where he was the top scorer in the Premier League. He was the leader for assists. Whether he's demotivated or not, if Conte gets money in, and if he's allowed to clear out a lot of the deadwood of the club that's been there for so many years, And if he's given carte blanche by Joe Lewis and Daniel Levy, there's no reason for Kane to leave, because there's an exciting project there. But the problem with Spurs is they're so far behind everybody else that it's going to take a few years. And is that the type of manager Conte is? Because
he's not a few years job,
no,
really, is he? That's the one thing.
Conte is like an inferno that's going to come in. They're going to be super fit, the players that stay. You'll get one chance. You're either in or you're out. But he is very much a firefighter, a short-term manager. Although he did spend 3 years at Juventus, but I suppose it was in his native Italy.
I think that's one of the things. Like, it is going to be, it's sort of box office stuff. And I mean, I suppose people could look to someone like Thomas Tuchel going to Chelsea mid-season last year and showing that you can. But I suppose the flip side of that was there was a feeling, Chelsea had assembled a really good squad and they just needed that little bit of honing. And I don't know, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that's the feeling about the Spurs team. And also as well, there's a feeling as well, Conte has a fairly intense approach to everything, how he wants things done around the place. Like his pre-seasons seem to be sort of legendary stuff, and sort of introducing their culture and even about diet and everything. And again, you're mid-season, so it's a slightly more difficult, although I suppose anyone who doesn't go on international duty is going to have a fun time, I'd say, over the next sort of, 10, I don't think it's going to be a more chilled out international break for the guys who aren't in international squads. So that's the only thing, like, for his methodology to try and introduce some of that mid-season, he's going to have to just strike a balance there. But I think probably what you're excited about from a Spurs perspective is probably next summer, but it's what happens between now and next summer just to function as a bridge towards then. And maybe it is the thing that actually makes Kane realise, well, I might be better off here, actually. But that depends if there's a buy-in as well, because like with the short-term hit managers, they have a great success rate, but you can also find I mentioned earlier, like you can have a dressing room that doesn't respond to it if there's question marks around some of their attitude. If there was some suggestion in one or two of the stories that a couple of the players are a bit worried by Conte's reputation.
They should be.
No, they should be. But if you respond to it in the right way, but it's almost like what Laura mentioned earlier, when you have sort of money and things nowadays, like if you've made it to Spurs, you were doing very, very well. You are. I know in the broader scheme of life, you're doing very well. So it's a challenge, I think, with his reputation, to see what characters will respond to it, and he may not necessarily be able to get the dressing room he wants until next summer. So you just hope that things stay stable enough from there to here.
Well, it's an opportunity as well. Go on, Laura.
No, I was just going to say, and I think normally with these guys, with this style of management, they try and get a couple of their own players in ASAP, which obviously would be January. When I say their own players, a couple of Italian players in there, just to sort of say, be in the dressing room, obviously be good players as well, but almost go, well, this is how he coaches, this is how he trains everybody. Get the two of them up the front at the front of the running, all that kind of thing. So you kind of want one or two of your own players in there ASAP, because it really seriously does help.
As well as that, JD, like you look at like other professional sports like cycling, rugby, even our own games, Gaelic games, Olympians and all that. Like, just because footballers are extremely fortunate to be on ridiculous sums of money does not take away the responsibility of basically being in a position that they have to work their asses off and be extremely fit and actually put in an awful effort to play for the likes of Tottenham. And they shouldn't be looking like Manchester United players today, where they can play in a 12 o'clock game. There's no atmosphere. They can kind of clock in, clock out, go home and earn their 600 grand or whatever. Like, these are elite athletes. And as such, like somebody who wants to win the Tour de France, they should have to really, really work hard week in, week out to play for Spurs. And that's how it should be.
60 points to 5, by the way. Ireland beat Japan in the rugby. Johnny Sexton's 100th appearance. Scored a try. Dream day for him. Andrew Conway with a hat-trick. Just before we go to the break, Laura, Eddie Howe for Newcastle, if he does sign that deal, is it a good move for him and for the club?
Yeah, absolutely. They're in a relegation scrap, and I think we've looked at the fixtures, and they've played most of the teams around them, haven't they, already? So that's going to be a real struggle for them. They'll have to do really well to finish 17th. They might need some kind of run, John. The turn of the year, because they're just lagging behind everybody, and they have a problem. Obviously, you'd maybe argue that obviously Wilson's the best goal scorer, but they seem to struggle to keep him fit and keep him on the pitch, etc. It's so Eddie Howe knows what it's like at the bottom of the league, and I think he'll obviously be allowed to buy players in January, but you're going to have to buy players to get you out of the mess. You're not going to go and get Coutinho and all those, because I just don't think that will work for them. That's maybe next August. So get one or two players that one or two who are really good in terms of the grind and everything. Make themselves difficult to beat. Again, work extremely hard. And I think they'll just be all right. So I think it's quite a common sense job for him to have, and also for the football club to take him on.
Okay. Got to go to the ads just before we do. Brentford 0, Norwich 2 at half-time in the Premier League. Kai Havertz with that goal. Chelsea 1, Burnley 0 at half-time. Crystal Palace 0, Wolves 0. If you're just joining us, Man City beat Man United 2-0 earlier on in the Premier League. In the Championship, half-time, Barnsley 0, Hull 1. At the moment, it is Blackburn 1, Sheffield United 1. It is Bournemouth 1, Swansea 0. It is Cardiff 0, Huddersfield 1 is the latest score. Coventry 0, Bristol City 1. Half-times, Luton 0, Stoke 1. Half-time, Millwall 1, Derby 1. It is Nottingham Forest 2, Preston 0. Peterborough 0, Fulham 0 at half-time. West Brom 0, Middlesbrough 1 at half-time. And the latest score, Birmingham 1, Reading 0. And in the Women's National League, Bohemians 1, Shelbourne 3 as a result. Latest score, Cork 3, Treaty United 1. And in Scotland, in the Premiership, Aberdeen 0, Motherwell 0, Hearts 2, Dundee United 1 and St Johnstone 0, St Mirren 0. Off the Ball Saturday on News Talk is back after 4 with lots of discussion about Ireland, Damien Duff and the Director of Football at the FAI, and Portugal on Thursday.
This weekend on News Talk, we're getting ready for Science Week, running from November 7th to 14th. Supported by Science Foundation Ireland. Discover how to get involved and have your say in the Government of Ireland's Creating Our Future campaign at newstalk.com/Science Week.
At Power City, you can recycle your old electrical appliances free. To find out more, go online to powercity.ie or call in store today.
DoneDeal has the largest range of premium cars in Ireland, from Ireland's trusted premium car dealerships. That's why you will find Frank Keane BMW on DoneDeal. Stop by Frank Keane BMW's online showroom on DoneDeal today and connect with them for great deals. DoneDeal, for premium car deals to feel great about, from Ireland's trusted car dealerships.
Cast your eye over a spellbinding seascape in the depths of Dublin Bay. Idir Hala agus Arige na Daoine is an Dúlra. You need an eye that's wide to follow an Cuan. Fech only on TG Cahid and the TG Cahid player. Eyes wide with wonder. Foshnish TG Cahid.
Like a lot of people, you probably have money sitting in the bank earning practically zero interest while prices go up and up. At Ask Paul, we're known for making money work smarter. So we started our investment club. A community of people investing for the future to beat inflation and make their money work harder. But don't take our word for it. Ask one of the 5,500 investors who invest through Ask Paul each month. Or find out for yourself at askpaul.ie. Pax Asset Management DAC trading as Ask Paul, and Pax Financial is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
In Ireland, we don't get a lot of sunshine, which means we probably don't get enough vitamin D. And that's why we developed Vitabiotics Ultra Vitamin D. Specially formulated, one tiny Ultra Vitamin D tablet helps maintain your immune system, providing all the vitamin D you need in one daily tablet. Bring a little sunshine into your day with Vitabiotics Ultra Vitamin D. Pick up your 3-month supply in-store and online from leading pharmacies and health food stores nationwide.
At Centra, we have everything you need with great offers. Like Centra Fresh Hours Triploin Steak, 360 gram, only €6. Nestle Quality Street Tin, 900 gram, only €8. And until Sunday, Connoisseur Bicycletta range, 75 CL, €6 each. Centra. Live every day. Enjoy, call sensibly.
Screen Time. This week on Screen Time, I talked to director Ross Colleen about his amazing new Damien Dempsey documentary, Love Yourself Today, about the healing power of music. Mark Ryle gets to grips with Marvel's latest offering, Eternals. Plus actress Simone Kirby on her favourite movie and new RTE drama, Hidden Assets. Plus your chance to win The Suicide Squad on DVD.
Screen Time with John Fardy.
Listen and subscribe to the podcast now or tune in Saturday from 6.
It's nearly tax time. This year, why not let Tax Assist manage your return? If you are self-employed and want to make sure you are paying the right amount of tax, get in touch today to book your free consultation. Meet online or in one of our 20 locations to get a fixed, competitive price and let us take the worry away when it comes to self-assessment tax returns. Visit taxassist.ie. We're here to help you thrive.
As the ongoing effects of Brexit on Irish business become clearer, the SBCI, in conjunction with the Department of Enterprise, Trade and Employment and the Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marine, has launched the Brexit Impact Loan Scheme. This scheme will make loans available at reduced interest rates to Brexit-impacted SMEs, small mid-caps, farmers and fishers to help them address the challenges presented by Brexit. Loans range from €25,000 up to €1.5 million, with terms up to 6 years and unsecured up to €500,000. Terms and conditions apply. Find out how your business can access the Brexit Impact Loan Scheme at sbci.gov.ie or call 1800 804 482. This is a Government of Ireland initiative delivered by the SBCI.
At Peugeot, we're known for our exciting range of award-winning cars and SUVs. Now we've created a range that's electrifying. The fully electric E208, striking and distinctive. The fully electric E2008 compact SUV, smooth and spacious. And the 3008 plug-in hybrid, combining advanced electric and petrol engine technology. To book a test drive at your nearest Peugeot dealer, visit Peugeot.ie.
Even incidents that happened and you're like, all the bystanders are just watching. We're saying that we're a society, that we're all there for each other, but when something does happen, no one steps in. Any abuse, whether it's verbal or physical, no one actually steps in. And they could hear it. There's been incidents where it's like on the Lewis, I've been verbally attacked. You feel like, oh my God, I'm all alone.
Because we're all human means we're all equal. Learn more about the impact of racism in Ireland from the Irish Human Rights and Equality Commission at ihrec.ie.
The Eagles live in concert. Celebrating 50 years of the biggest band in American history. For one incredible night at Viva Stadium Friday, June 24th. With special guests, Little Big Town. The Eagles. Tickets from $59.50 on sale this Thursday at 9 a.m. Additional charges may apply, subject to licence.
On 106 to 108 FM. On newstalk.com. On smart speaker. And on the Newstalk app. This is Newstalk.
It's 4 o'clock. Good afternoon. I'm Stephen Burke. A man in his 30s has been remanded in custody, charged with the murder of his wife in Dublin earlier this week. 32-year-old Diego Costa Silva, originally from Brazil, appeared before Dublin District Court, charged with the murder of 32-year-old Fabiola Camara de Campos, who was found dead on Thursday morning. He made no reply to the charge. He was also recommended he undergo a psychiatric assessment while in custody. He's due to appear again by video link at Clover Hill District Court next Friday. 3,685 people have tested positive for COVID-19, while 444 people are being treated in hospital for the virus, 74 of them in intensive care. The Chief Medical Officer has urged people to continue with the basics of hand washing, social distancing and recognising risky environments. He says people should walk out of the premises if they're not asked for a COVID cert.
We need you as an individual to understand that an environment where you're not being asked about these things, or where hand washing facilities are not present, or it's evident that mask wearing is not as it should be, you should look at that as a riskier environment than it should be. And you should leave, feel empowered to leave, and certainly not go back to visit. And all of that will help to encourage compliance.
Thousands have taken part in demonstrations across the country calling for action on climate change. Rallies organised by 39 groups were held in Cork, Dublin, Galway, Limerick, Waterford, Belfast and Derry this afternoon. Addressing protesters in Glasgow, 18-year-old climate activist Greta Thunberg says the global summit is a 2-week-long celebration of business as usual and blah, blah, blah. Speaking at the March for Climate Justice in Dublin, People Before Profit's Paul Murphy says meaningful action is urgently needed.
I think it's the same message as Greta Thunberg. No more blah, blah, blah. No more empty promises. We need climate action to transform people's lives for the better. So that means in this country, stopping lying about the need to cut the number of cattle we have and to explain how that can...
8 people have died during a crush at a festival in Texas organised by Travis Scott. 17 people were taken to hospital, with 11 suffering from cardiac arrest. Police have appealed for calm after rumours on social media that people had been injected with drugs. Officers have confirmed that's forming part of their investigation. Travis Scott called for help when he noticed something was wrong.
Passed out right here. Somebody passed out right here. Hold on, don't touch him, don't touch him. Everybody just back up. Security, somebody help jump in real quick.
It's just gone 2 minutes past 4.
News Talk weather.
Thanks to Ryanair. Book your ski trip to the best winter slopes in Italy, France and Austria.
Wet and windy today, with rain pushing southeast across the country, clearing to bright spells and well scattered showers later from the northwest. Highest temperatures of 11 to 14 degrees. Now you're up to date on News Talk.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky. All the football you love in one place. Across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.
And you're welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk. John Duggan with you 3 to 5. Remember, football and Off the Ball brought to you by Sky, with watch Arsenal versus Watford in the Women's Super League this Sunday live on Sky Sports. Now we're joined by the former Republic of Ireland and Liverpool defender Mark Lawrenson, the broadcaster and journalist Johnny Ward, and the Irish Independent football correspondent Dan McDonnell to talk about the beautiful game. You can text us 53106 or tweet us at Off the Ball. We're streaming the conversation as well, so listen on News Talk, but also watch us if you can on the digital and social channels for Periscope on Twitter, at Off the Ball, YouTube, Facebook, and on the OTB Sports app. Half times in the Premier League. Let's get a report on Chelsea against Burnley from Stamford Bridge with Ian Beach.
Chelsea 1, Burnley 0. Slightly underwhelming first half, to be fair. Kai Havertz scoring the only goal for Chelsea. Just a smattering of applause from the home supporters because their team have been well on top. Burnley have defended pretty stoutly and resolutely, though, keeping players behind the ball. I've lost count of the number of corners Chelsea have had. They've been around that Burnley penalty for most of the first half, but they've only got that one goal to show for it. Chelsea 1, Burnley 0.
And a half-time report from Brentford against Norwich from the Brentford Community Stadium, and Joshua Donker.
Brentford 0, Norwich City 2. What a half for Norwich. They come into the break in control and they lead for the first time this season at the break. Records tumbling in that half. First time in 29 Premier League games they've scored more than once. Their first away goals of the season also. It started inside 10 minutes with Matthias Norman's strike inside. Really good goal going past the goalkeeper. Then the lead was doubled by Timo Piku for his third of the season. Won the penalty and he scored the penalty. Brentford have huffed and puffed all half. They haven't got Ivan Toney or Mbu on the ball and to create opportunities. They're still looking for their first home goals and they still haven't won since the opening day of the season here at this ground. Lots of work to do. Thomas Frank and Daniel Farke at the wars, at the dugout. Half time, Brentford 0, Norwich 2.
And a half-time report from Crystal Palace against Wolves from Selhurst Park, and Nigel Bidmead.
Crystal Palace 0, Wolves 0. Not going to lie, this has been a bang average game so far. It takes two to tango, and in the first half only Palace have wanted to dance. Wolves have been passive, sitting in and playing on the break. As for chances, Palace's Edouard had an early shot saved following a good move, and Raul Jimenez for Wolves glanced a header from a free kick straight at the goalkeeper. 0-0.
And earlier on, Man United 0, Manchester City 2. A text in here on 53106. Seriously, no pundit thinks United is equal to Chelsea, Liverpool or City, be it the squad or managers. So why all the postmortems? Reality won today, full stop. Well, Texter, one of the biggest clubs in the world, 20 Premier League titles. Standards, it should be better at Man United if they want to be one of the biggest clubs in the world. At the moment, they are not on the pitch, regardless of what they're doing off the pitch. Festi Eboseli, by the way, has scored for Derby away to Millwall in the Championship, so good to see that. Dan, Ruud Dokter is leaving the FAI at the end of the year. So Stephen Kenny and Vera Powell among the well-wishers, the high-performance director to leave his position at the end of the year. I suppose his legacy would be these underage leagues, these leagues that have the links with the League of Ireland clubs, maybe put the schoolboy sector's nose out of joint a bit. Is that a legacy that's going to continue under a new director of football? What will be the report card on Ruud Dokter when he eventually leaves?
Yeah, listen, as you said, he's leaving and sort of officially leaving at the end of 2021, but it's not a big surprise that he's going. It sort of had been discussed for a while. Yeah, like you sort of put the news out yesterday and you see the range of responses probably reflects the legacy in that it's divided. You know, there's mixed opinions, but probably, you know, ultimately probably at the end a sort of acknowledgement that probably it's not the worst time for this to happen, you know, that maybe it sort of had reached the end of his cycle. Now listen, I don't think you can. I think it would be disingenuous to sort of say that everything was rosy in the garden before he arrived. Clearly it wasn't, and clearly a lot of what he inherited were sort of historic tensions and historic issues and problems that needed fixing. And he went about trying to introduce some changes, some of which at a sort of very basic level. I mean, I would have got sort of messages from people yesterday around the country, probably outside Dublin, who would have said, in their part of the world, they would have welcomed, say, aspects of, say, the player development plan and other sort of standardised diktats that came from the top that sort of helped people coaching at a sort of younger regional level. Now, the flip side to that is, though, I mean, was that all about Ruud Dokter, or was it just? Would you expect that any tactical director or any high performance director to send out sort of programs and stuff that would be taken on board and taken on board and used around the country? But I think on the sort of substantive issues, I think the issue would be really that he hasn't brought people together, and while he probably had some good ideas, and I think the National Underage Leagues, personally, I think they were a very good idea and a very welcome initiative and something that was needed, but clearly how they were introduced, decisions over how teams were allowed to enter or not, and the subsequent communication of how decisions were reached probably left a lot to be desired, and they're imperfect. I mean, the concept of the National Underage Leagues is good, but in practice, I'm not going to say get too down into the detail of it, but as you said, League of Ireland clubs were effectively given control of that area. Some of whom had been very ambivalent towards youth football generally, whereas the top schoolboy clubs who wanted to enter these leagues, they didn't really get too far into the process, and the door was closing them, they felt. And he felt, well, the way to do it was to encourage partnerships between clubs, which again in theory is sounds fine, but in practice there's obviously historic reasons why these partnerships are difficult to create and put together. And there would have been a feeling, I think, that ultimately, like Ruud Dokter was, he was a Dutchman in Ireland with his ideas of how to do things, but maybe didn't fully embrace or get the complexities of the Irish culture, the Irish sporting culture, and maybe
it's
not
more fragmented than Holland. Holland's very much about football.
It's not Holland. Like Holland, you'll have a massive population centre built around one professional club and everything feeding into that. Whereas in Ireland, there's all sorts of different competing interests. And for example, National Underage Leagues, the concept of them, very good idea, and I think they were particularly beneficial outside of Dublin, getting places, getting certain regional areas pulled together towards a cause of some description. Clearly, though, like there was issues with them, that it sort of, there would be a view that it sort of encourages sort of early elitism, in the sense that players who played under 13 level in particular, or even under 15 level, and the jump to under 17 level, there's gaps. Like in an ideal world with resources, you would have a league at under 13, under 14, under 15, under 16, under 17. When you introduce 13, 15, 17, and for later developers, they just fall between the cracks. They were expected to go back to their schoolboy clubs in the in-between years, which isn't really going to happen. And again, a lot of this comes back to resources and the issues that we face with football in Ireland. We'll talk about Damien Duff later, who highlighted some points this week about facilities and stuff. And I think Ruud Dokter did inherit problems that I think anyone would have struggled to deal with, and had some ideas. I think Stephen Kenny in his quotes in the press release made a reference to unpopular decisions, and he did make unpopular decisions. And sometimes I would think in Irish football you need people to make unpopular decisions, but he just didn't necessarily have the skill set possibly to pull together the factions. And if anything, it feels like there's a bit more division there now than there might have been before, and that's not great, and I think whoever goes in there now, diplomacy is going to be a big issue with it. But there's so many different range of views on this. Like Stephen Bradley, for example, I mentioned this in a piece in the paper today. Like Stephen Bradley, Shamrock Rovers manager, would say, the underage leagues were great. They should have been brought in even at a younger age group. Yet other people out there would say that's mad. You know, like, there's different opinions. Ruud Dokter last year was linked with a document where he was encouraging kids to specialise and pick a sport at the age of 12. People would say, this isn't Holland, this is Ireland, where people play all different codes and stuff. So there's different opinions, but I guess maybe he struggled to probably unite people behind what he was trying to do, and then you obviously have to analyse why that was.
Okay, there's a text in here. Ruud Dokter impact too much too soon. Under 14 National League final this evening. Galway United and Shamrock Rovers, 44 players tagged. Let's see in 5 years' time how many are still playing under 19s or playing under 20 GA or not playing at all. League of Ireland and under 14-15 is handing players over to other sports at under 18, under 21.
Yeah, I think the point there, I'm guessing, is that it's to do with the sort of drop-off rates, that if you bring people into an environment where you have to get into this League of Ireland club, at a particular under 13 or under 14 as it is now post-pandemic, that when they jump up the age groups, as I mentioned, when you have these gap years, there comes a point where you will lose some people along the way, and can they go back to their schoolboy clubs that have been decimated and picked apart? But the only thing I would say on the flip side of that was, I mean, we've always had a reasonably high attrition rate of elite players in whatever format you have as well too. I mean, how many stories do you hear of kids who go away to England at 16 and aren't playing the game?
And they won't now.
And so I think, I think sometimes there's a slight danger of sort of romanticising an era that existed before and not sort of acknowledging that there were problems within that system too as well that needed to be addressed. But as you mentioned correctly, I mean, the goalposts have changed now completely with Brexit, and all of a sudden we don't have that option to outsource that last stage of player production to another country, and as a result it puts the scrutiny on what we have here at home, and what we have here at home is still not good enough to deliver that, and that's not just one person's fault or even one association's fault. There's a collective reason. But I think, you know, I would have spoken to people in the last couple of years who would be at the sharp end of sort of the schoolboy stuff, and their issue would be that they just weren't being consulted around certain decisions. You can argue about decisions, and ultimately you have to say, no, we're going to agree with your decision, but it would have been the lack of, say, consultation that would have been a problem. And I think certainly whoever goes in there now, a big part of their skill set is almost going to be about getting the right people in the room as opposed to being a brilliant brain. You know what I mean? I think it's more about getting someone who can pull different parties together, as opposed to necessarily in the short term looking for this visionary who's going to lay out the plan. That's just my opinion. Other people would have a different view.
I think, Johnny, the wider public wants the national team primarily to do well, and they want a better league than we have at the moment in 10 years' time, 20 years' time. They want to have that pathway clear in their minds of, oh, well, these players are coming through and they're going to make it. When I'm thinking about a new director of football, it's an absolutely massive appointment, and it has to be somebody with a 2021 cap on or hat on to think about how the game should be played and developed in the country.
Yeah, like arguably more important than the senior manager's job in some respects. The senior manager's remit is effectively to pick, you know, the best 11 and to qualify for tournaments, to do as best he can. Stephen Kenny's trying to go beyond that, but, you know, when you think of the responsibility of this role, and also not to be restricted by what Ruud Dokter did, but what the potential is for his replacement to do. And I was reminded of Charlie Haughey's famous comment about, you know, back in the day of an Irish solution to an Irish problem. Because Charlie Haughey was saying about an Irish solution to an Irish problem, this isn't the old bad days of contraception and so forth. And it was like, well, I don't know how contraception is an Irish problem. It's a global problem, but maybe we have a different Irish way of looking at this because we're run by the Catholic Church. But if you come into Ruud Dokter's position, this was a Dutch solution to an Irish problem, because Ireland's sporting landscape at a young age is really, really different, I think, to most countries, in that, like, Gaelic football itself was more or less a sport that was born out of soccer, and then you have hurling and rugby. You could feasibly have a young lad who could play 3 or 4 sports. And that's the complexity of some of the issues that he had to deal with, and that as Dan said about that comment that you should have your niche sport, your only sport at 12. It doesn't necessarily work like that. And Stephen Bradley's remark that we have to go younger, like, I really think footballers have to be playing and learning the skills and playing at a reasonable level at a really, really, really young age, and getting their development going. Not through coaching necessarily, but playing football and getting to use the football and playing at a reasonable level as early as possible, because that's where we've lagged behind. And Ruud Dokter, you have to remember, he would have been brought in during the Delaney-led FAI when maybe this decision was made in terms of the underage leagues. Maybe it was kind of foisted upon Irish football, but I think it was a necessary evil, if you want to call it that. I do think that the situation we had, where we had a small number of schoolboy clubs that had the cream of the talent in effectively Dublin-based schoolboy clubs, where you would have like elite players and not so elite players at underage travelling from Limerick, travelling from Galway to play for the likes of Belvedere and that, where now they can play for Treaty or they can play for Galway United. Like that to me is absolutely bonkers. And you need to develop clubs around the country, and you need to get proper academies such that Finn Harps is the fulcrum of the community in Donegal and the surrounding region. You look at Sligo Rovers, JD. Sligo Rovers qualified for Europe last night. I think in one game this season against Bohs in the league, they had 8 or 9 players from their academy and on the either playing or on the bench. They've John Mahan, who they've signed on he signed a few years ago, or a couple of years ago on a 3-year contract. Really talented player who was absolutely outstanding last night. Johnny Kenny, who's been strongly linked with Celtic, signed a contract there this week. These are homegrown players in Sligo, in a small town, who are playing for Sligo Rovers, but also developing as footballers. And I think the underage national leagues, as much as it would have put a lot of noses out of joint in terms of schoolboy system, I think if you listen to anyone watching the games, the standard is really, really high. And that is also bringing in the need for coaches at under 13, 15, 17 and 19 level, who themselves are going to develop. And in terms of developing a football industry in this country, it's absolutely vital. The problem is we don't have enough clubs. We still have so many parts of Ireland that have no real affinity to a League of Ireland team. And there's a major black hole in kind of southeast Leinster, around that general region into Munster, where we don't have any League of Ireland clubs. So we need more underage elite clubs that players can play for. And in fairness, I think as much as, the League of Ireland clubs in general, a lot of them are not equipped. And as Dan said, they didn't really have any interest in actually underage teams going down the years. This made it mandatory for them to actually invest in their underage teams. They had to have 13, 15, 17, 19, and it's not going to be a success overnight. But, I spoke to Pico Lopez. We had him on our podcast, Dan and I, during the week, and he spoke about Shels 17s and Galway 19s, a game that he was at recently, and Damien Duff was over the Shels 17s, and he said Galway United were absolutely outstanding. He couldn't get over the talent, and he said, at that age, I don't think I would have been able to play at that standard, and this is Galway United that's not necessarily heralded. And I think in terms of going forward, we need to have a proper pyramid structure where these underage leagues are the challenge for people going forward. John Morling was mentioned to me as somebody who would be good for the job. It'd be very interesting to see if the FAI goes for an older hand, or if it goes abroad again. Does it go for somebody within the league? Because it's a really, really big job. And lastly, I think what Dan touched on there is a serious challenge in those players that slip through the cracks, that don't progress from 13 to 15, and there'll even be players who were eligible, we'll say, for 2 years at under 13 that haven't progressed to make it for the second year of under 13 because players are passing them by. And there has to be a kind of a caring aspect to this with younger players, that you can suffer setbacks and you can then go back to maybe your own club that you were with originally and start to progress again. And as long as there's consultation between the League of Ireland club and the clubs in the community, that we'll talk about players and what players are coming through, so that you're not dropped out at 13s or 15s and then you feel like you're lost the game forever. But in general, I think you leave a good legacy, and I think what Stephen Kenny said is very important. And from the people I spoke to within the game, this was a key point that they did make. As much as he may have come across as a bit Dutch at times, he actually did really care about the players, and that was his main ambition.
Mark Lawrenson, when you're looking at the way England sorted themselves out, look, it's a different country. Football is their religion over there. They don't have the competition of Gaelic games that we have here. But like you look at someone like Dan Ashworth and the job he did with England and as technical director, and they got to a World Cup semi-final, then he left. Now he's at Brighton. England were the Euros final. What makes a good director of football or technical director of an FA in your view?
How long have you got?
About 2 minutes.
Yeah, cheers. I think it's obviously it's not just the identification of the players as well. It's having a way of playing that everybody will buy into, and he rose very, very quickly, didn't he, Dan Ashcroft? Was he at West Brom at some stage?
Yeah,
I think?
he was. Yeah.
And he rose very, 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 very quickly. Look, England are really fortunate because they've got so many players to pick from at all kind of levels. And the other thing as well is just listening to, I was fascinated listening to that as well, that you can still play other sports, can't you? I mean, I played cricket almost professionally until I was like 17 and stuff like that. But I think now the thing is everything's organised with England. They've got all these different leagues that they channel all the players through, etc., etc. The welfare is really seriously looked after, and they're giving everybody a chance. And I think they've done it quite sort of, I don't know if softly is probably the right description, but he's done a really, really good job. And when he first came out, I kind of listening to him and think it was like a bit of like, really? But as the time's gone on, he's proven to be very, very good indeed. And I think Gareth Southgate is a massive fan of his, is he not?
Yeah, as Chelsea nearly go 2-0.
Yeah, there's a lot of praise for Dan Ashworth, like even just... I would have done a fair bit of work on this last summer, just when England were going so well in the Euros and asking people about him and stuff. And I mean, it does help that certainly there's big financial investment over there, and that the Premier League academies, his work ran in tandem with the Premier League academies. There have been a real sort of sustained level of investment in that too, which again, a lot of this will come back to resources, but people would say as well there's a lot more innovation over in England as regards competitions, just for different age groups, people in different shapes and sizes, sort of creative thinking around it. And I think that would be, again, there would be issues here at home with just maybe the real sort of the strategy aspect of elements such as that, you know. I listened to the picture Johnny paints there, you know, about different parts of the country, and I sort of agree with it. But I think maybe there's little idiosyncrasies to the Irish system that someone here working here for 8 years probably needs to get on top of quicker. And I think that would be the complaint.
Yeah, I think you know, we have Damien Duff there lamenting the facilities that soccer enjoys compared to the GA infrastructurally, and I think soccer at this stage needs state support. I mean, the Porky Queeve got 30 million from the taxpayer. How many matches are played there each year? There's a question I would definitely ask, you know, and I do think there needs to be actually strong state support for football in the country.
I don't think there was a lot of love for I don't think League of Ireland clubs and football in general had the friends maybe in power that it needed, JD, but a bit like climate change over the last sort of, you know, week or two, where it's been the only thing in the paper. What Damien Duff has done now is set an agenda, and Micheál Martin was on the show here with Joe Malloy talking about it. Yeah. I think there's more of a knowledge now and an acknowledgement that something needs to be done, because even the likes of Tallaght Stadium and our best stadiums in the league in this country and our best facilities, there's nothing even particularly modern about them, and they're the good ones.
We're going to talk about Damien Duff in Portugal a bit more after the break. But just before you go, Mark Lawrenson, West Ham, Liverpool tomorrow. You'll have a lot of interest in that for various reasons. Your good friend David Moyes against your former club. How has your pal resurrected his career? What was the secret? Because he had a few dark days in management when it all went wrong at Man U.
Yeah, he did. Hard work, John. That's the way that he is. And when you ask him now about West Ham, etc., and obviously this is his second spell there, but when you ask him, he just says that he was been really, really lucky insofar as the two guys who own the club, he said, have been absolutely brilliant with him. I don't think they're particularly liked or loved by the supporters, but he said, treat people as you find them. He said they've been great, as has Karen Brady. He said they've never really turned him down in terms of when he's asked for money for players. But he said one of the biggest breaks he's had is signing the two Czech Republic boys, because... So
Sofal and Souček, yeah.
Yeah, he said they've been unbelievable pros. He said from the minute they got there, they felt like they'd found an oil field in the back garden. It was great. And obviously they're on good money, but he said they worked the socks off. He said they started this thing where they stayed behind together after training, and they would do some whatever they needed to do, etc., and maybe work on the touch movement. He said in the end... He said, basically, everybody has done the same thing. And he said, so now, he said, I'm having to say to everybody, whoa, that's enough. That's enough. We've got a game in 3 days, 2 days, whatever. And he said that they've been great. And he said, you've also just got to be lucky with your signings. You know, obviously, the boy on loan from Man United, who doesn't get a game now, of course.
He's gone back, Lingard, yeah.
Yeah, he said he was great. He said, but he was lucky with him. He said because he signed him in lockdown, and he likes his nights out, this lad. And Moyes said the great thing about it was he couldn't go anywhere. He said so all he had to concentrate on was his football. He said, and he bought into the whole thing. I think the only thing that really worries him is Antonio, He said he's not got the greatest hamstrings, and he said it's a real problem. We'll lose him at some stage, and he's so influential in the way that the team plays. But he just said that he's got good, honest pros. He said people not in the team and everything. They back everybody. They're all in it together, and he's got the results. And as he says, long may it continue.
2-2 draw for Liverpool at Brighton. At Anfield last week against Brighton. Anything to be concerned about when it came to that?
Yeah, well, a bit defensively with Liverpool. Brighton were really, really good. I don't know if you know, I did a thing in a local Brighton paper which is called the Argus 2 days before the game, and the guy was saying to me, how will they go about playing against Liverpool? And I said they'll commit footballing suicide if they actually go for them. And of course they turned out they played 3 up front. They got 2-2 and they could have actually won. Shows you what I know. But I mean. And Graham Potter's done a fab job there as well. But he's another one who's extremely well backed. Tony Blue owns a club. He's very, very wealthy. He's built a new ground, as everybody knows. Got a fantastic training ground, etc. And the really sobering thing is that his granddad was vice chairman when I was playing at Brighton. That really knocked me back.
Good stuff, Laro. Fabinho as well, being back during the week. He's just such an important player.
Yeah. Massive. He lets other people. He goes about his business really, very uncomplicated, and just lets other people play around him. He's a massive player for Liverpool. Him.
And Van Dijk, do you feel he's back to where he wants to be yet? No.
No, not quite, John. No, he's not. I think he would admit that himself, that he's not. He's made 1 or 2 mistakes. Like everybody's human. But listen, again, he's just such an absolutely outstanding player. It's not a real problem. And forgive me if I'm wrong, aren't they still unbeaten?
Since April, yeah.
It's not too bad, is it? I think they just broke our record. I think it was with Bob Paisley, wasn't it? 82 or something.
Yeah, I'm not sure the records now off the top of my head here, but
yeah, I think we went 20 odd, and I think they've just beaten it. So good luck to them.
Verdict tomorrow. What do you think?
I think Liverpool will win because I think Moisey. I think he'll sit in. I don't think he'll attack Liverpool at all, John. I think he will absolutely, totally, man for man, sit in and try and nick bits and pieces from obviously free kicks, corners, etc.
Laro, enjoy it. We'll speak soon.
Will do. Thank you.
Mark Lawrenson there. We'll also be having Dan and Johnny between now and 5 on Ireland against Portugal on Thursday, and Damien Duff. We'll keep you right up to date with the Premier League scores as the goals go in. At the moment, it is Chelsea 1, still Burnley 0 with that Kai Havertz goal in the first half. Brentford 1, Norwich 2. Brentford have pulled one back, and Crystal Palace, who had a great win at Manchester City last week, now lead Wolves by 1-0. Wilfried Zaha on target for the second week in a row. In the Championship, it is Barnsley 0, Hull 1. Blackburn 3, Sheffield United 1. It is Bournemouth 3, Swansea 0. Cardiff trail Huddersfield by 1-0. It is Coventry 1, Bristol City 1. It is Luton 0, Stoke 1. Millwall and Derby are tied at a goal apiece. It is Nottingham Forest 3, Preston 0. It is Peterborough 0, Fulham 0. West Brom and Middlesbrough are tied at a goal apiece. It's Birmingham 1, Reading 0. At 5:30, it's Blackpool against QPR. In the Women's National League results, Bohemians 1, Shelbourne 3, and Cork City 3, Treaty United 1. And in Scotland at the moment, Aberdeen 0, Motherwell 2, Hearts 3, Dundee United 2, and it's St Johnstone 0, St Mirren 0. Earlier on today, Ireland 60, Japan 5 in the rugby. Johnny Sexton 100 caps and scored a try on his landmark, and Andrew Conway with a hat-trick, a comprehensive win for Andy Farrell's side. Off the Ball Saturday on News Talk is back after this.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, all the football you love in one place. Across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.
Screen Time.
This week on Screen Time, I talked to director Ross Killeen about his amazing new Damien Dempsey documentary, Love Yourself Today, about the healing power of music. Mark Ryle gets to grips with Marvel's latest offering, Eternals. Plus actress Simone Kirby on her favourite movie and new RTE drama, Hidden Assets. Plus your chance to win The Suicide Squad on DVD.
Screen Time with John Fardy.
Listen and subscribe to the podcast now or tune in Saturday from 6.
There are those who fear change, those who welcome change, and those who drive change. At Nissan, we've always believed in driving change. Now, the all-new Nissan Qashqai is here. With the style and tech you want and the power you need, it's the future-proof family car. So, are you ready for change? The all-new Nissan Qashqai, electrified with mild hybrid power. Book a test drive today at nissan.ie. Nissan. Innovation that excites.
Looks like it's time to take the stabilisers off her bike. I may not be ready, but I know she is. Let's go see what my little girl can do.
At Zurich Pensions, we believe small actions can have great impact.
Good start. She's moving. She's got it! Next up, rollerblades.
Wherever life takes you, enjoy the flexibility of a Zurich pension. Take a small action for your future. Visit zurich.ie or talk to a financial broker about starting your pension today. Zurich Life Assurance plc is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
The famous Holland & Barrett 1 cent sale is back, with buy one get one for just 1 cent. On vitamin D, Manuka honey, natural skincare and much more. And you can even mix and match. Shop in-store or at hollandandbarrett.ie. Ends 14th of the 11th, 21. Selected items, cheapest item 1 cent, subject to availability.
From pensions
to employment,
local property tax
to fuel allowance,
Citizens Information answers hundreds of questions and hundreds of calls every week. But Citizens Information numbers have now changed to 0818. Contact our national phone service on 0818 07 4000. Whatever your question, we'll answer your call. That's 0818 07 4000. Or visit citizensinformation.ie, a source you can trust. Funded and supported by the Citizens Information Board.
At AIB, we don't make technology for you to bank. We make it for you to live. Just watch. So you can apply and get a loan through your AIB app or online. Knocking this out like it ain't nothing. All from the comfort of home. Banking to fit the way you live. AIB, we back doing. Lender criteria, terms and conditions apply. Over 18s only, subject to approval. Security may be required. Allied Irish Banks plc is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
As a world leader in heating and air conditioning technology, Daikin heat pumps harness renewable energy from the air and convert it to heat and hot water for your home, freeing you from carbon use and rising energy bills. Our highly efficient Daikin Ultherma 3 heat pumps will keep your home warm and comfortable all year round. Visit daikin.ie and start your journey today. That's DAIKIN. Daikin. Welcome renewable heat into your home.
At Centra, we have everything you need with great offers. Like Centra Fresh Hours Triploin Steak, 360 gram, only €6. Nestle Quality Street Tin, 900 gram, only €8. And until Sunday, Connoisseur Bicicletta range, 75cl, €6 each. Centra. Live every day. Enjoy, call sensibly.
Sign up to Air Fibre Broadband today and get our strongest, most reliable connection straight to the heart of your home. And Amazon Prime Video on us for a whole year. All for just $29.99 a month for the first 12 months. For more, call 1-800-500-300. Go in store or visit air.ie. Air. Let's make possible. Subject to availability. Pricing refers to Air Gigabit Fibre 150 meg. For full terms and conditions, go to air.ie/gigabit fibre.
At Betfair, we know how it feels when you're in the moment, in the heat of the match, and you decide to hit cash out. Only to find cash out is suspended and you're frozen out of your bet. That's why when you bet fair on football, you can cash out when you want, with no suspensions on match odds. We won't freeze you out of your bet because we're Betfair.
Applies to sportsbook match odds markets on majority of football. Excludes free bets, exchange bets, bet builder and bet settlement window. T's and C's apply. 18+. See gamblingcare.ie. Please gamble responsibly.
Some people have asked us how far the Skoda service team will go. Well, our technicians go into the belly of the engine, the deep depths where no one has ever gone before, dodging sparks by the skin of their teeth. They check and tighten, fill and change. And with 12 months free roadside assistance, they journey to rescue you no matter where you are. Book a major service at skodaservice.ie and get a complimentary set of wipers.
Maxi Zoo, Ireland's largest pet retailer, have some fantastic offers in store this November. Get tasty offers like 15% off Royal Canin 1.5 to 3 kilo dry dog food. Check out maxizoo.ie to find your local store. Maxi Zoo, there for you and your pet always.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, all the football you love in one place. Across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.
Andrew, welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday on News Talk. John Duggan with you through until 5. You can text us 53106, tweet us at Off the Ball. Dan McDonnell of the Irish Independent and the broadcaster and journalist Johnny Ward with us now to talk about the beautiful game, Premier League wise. Chelsea won Burnley 0, 79 minutes on the watch at Stamford Bridge. Earlier on, Man U 0, Man City 2 in the Manchester Derby. It is Brentford 1, Norwich 2 and Crystal Palace 1, Wolves 0. You were at the press conference the other day, Dan, for Damien Duff's unveiling at Shelbourne. Seemed like an entertaining event.
It was, yeah. It was. I think people would have probably read or listened to Damien Duff's comments this week. Yeah, and listen, it's really, really interesting that Damien Duff is going to be on the sideline as manager of Shelbourne next year, down in Talca Park. You know, it's like it's sort of surreal in a way. Just in that it's probably, you know, it's been a while, as I was watching Burnley equalise against his former club Chelsea here, where you have like a 2-time Premier League winner like Damien Duff coming home, wants to live in Ireland. I mean, I've always made this point, like, you know, one of the benefits of having an industry here, or a better football industry here, is that it actually helps you and allows you to tap into the brains of Irish football people who've gone and achieved things worldwide, who would like to live here. And so much of it revolves around the FAI. You know, everything revolves around the FAI, that if you don't work for the FAI, it's quite hard for you to work full-time in football in Ireland. There's a handful of managerial jobs that might be worth your while, but Duff has decided to give it a go with Shelbourne, who are very ambitious all of a sudden in their plans. And it's not just about a sort of a top-down, first team thing. I mean, they've hired Alan Caffrey from St Kevin's Boys, who would have been regarded as one of the top schoolboy brains in the country, you know, to run that whole side of the operation. And actually he has a bit more responsibility above that. They have a strong women's team as well as the men's team, and this is just the latest step with a new investment in the last 12-18 months. And it's great. I mean, it is box office stuff. I mean, at the press conference, there's just something about Damien Duff, and I would have spoke about it with Joe here during the week. He just has a likeability and a very sort of matter-of-fact delivery, but it carries weight as well, because he's a household name, and having people like that involved with our league here can only be a good thing, in my opinion, even if that means you have to accept that they're going to point out things you don't like and things that need to be fixed. I think that's great. I think it's good to have strong voices who can, you know, bring this subject and discussion to places maybe that other people can't.
Matej Vydra, that goal has been given for Burnley. So Chelsea won, Burnley won in the Premier League. Suspicion of offside, but it was given. Didn't go to VAR. And Chelsea, this could be a bit of a slip up today. Brentford 1, Norwich 2 and Crystal Palace 1, Wolves 0. You'd want to play for Damien Duff. I think that's the thing, isn't it, about him, Johnny, that he's a Premier League winner with Chelsea, possibly our last one. I'm thinking off the top of my head. Maybe John O'Shea subsequently.
No, there'd be more recent, but John O'Shea, but Darren Gibson, but
Yeah, but not many of them.
No.
And you're going to listen to him in the dressing room.
Yeah, like when you think of watching Ireland in our lifetimes, let's say, the teams that really excited you and almost performed on a par with anyone else, like when Robbie Keane and Damien Duff were up front against Spain that day, like that was one of these times when you're watching Ireland, you're like, we are practically as good as like a top nation, and our two front players here are absolutely world class. And Damien Duff was like one of these Irish players, a really rare offensive Irish player who was proper world class. And then he's gone from like looking like a kind of I think they used to say it was hard to get him out of bed as a footballer, but he's gone completely, he's flipped it as a coach, where he brings in kids at Shamrock Rovers to train practically at dawn in the morning. And he's developed this reputation as a pretty hardcore coach straight away. Dan says like that he's come in and he's said these things about the league. I think the important point about Duff is Duff came back to live in Ireland, and he did a brief stint playing for Shamrock Rovers, then underage Shamrock Rovers, underage at Shels. And I think over this period of time, he was developing his knowledge and developing ideas about where Irish football can go. And it's one of the best days for the League of Ireland, I think, in a long time, is Damien Duff getting that job, because it's as much as we try to promote the league and we love the league, Damien Duff, just by being Shelbourne manager, will bring it to a completely different level. Even globally, there'll be interest in this. And it's interesting for me now. I don't know what you make of this, Dan, but does this make any difference in terms of the future of Talca Park? Like, does Duff get on board Shell staying in a decrepit old ground? Because like this Shelbourne that he's trying to build doesn't necessarily tally with the Shelbourne that's going to move to Dalymount as well.
Yeah, I think I'd say, listen, that'll come, I think, in time, his entry to that debate. I think, in a way, probably Shels want to get back to being sort of relevant and competing at sort of Premier Division level, and that probably helps the case as well too. I mean, I did speak to some people around Shels this week, like, you know, hearing they're getting more phone calls about selling season tickets and stuff like that. And I think what's going to happen towards the start of next season, because Shels, like Tolka, is one of these grounds, a bit like Dalymount, where great old venue, but sections of it just can't be used because health and safety, or they're just off limits. So actually their capacities are going to be quite restricted, and you're going to be in that situation again where it drives the broader debate of, well, actually we want to create a product here that people want to watch, but our stadiums aren't good enough. So I don't know. I'm sure he'll be a helpful voice for that campaign in time, I would have thought. Johnny, I would have thought so. But like, I think what's an important point to make about the Damien Duff thing is, and it probably ties in with the Ruud Dokter debate we were talking about earlier. I even got a couple of text messages from people saying, maybe Damien Duff would have been better for Ruud Dokter's job, you know, and you can see where people are thinking with that. But like, we are in that post-Brexit reality now, like, where, as we've mentioned, yes, some outstanding Irish players will go to Europe, but generally more of our better players will stay at home for longer. We will now have, probably in 5-10 years time, a lot of the internationals in our team, a couple at the moment, quite a few have played in the League of Ireland, like Jamie McGrath and the sort of later bloomers. But you will have a situation where we're going to have some really good 16, 17 year olds playing in the League of Ireland, who then are, you know, they are the sort of Jason Knights and the sort of the Troy Parrots, whatever. They'll do a bit of time at home here, and I just think it makes sense that if you're going to have your future internationals definitely coming through the league now, having people like Damien Duff and some of our top players like as part of that league as well. It's a sort of a natural thing that for years the League of Ireland has existed as an island separate to the international team, and where things are going now, they have to be pulled together into one. And you need to strive to have the best people, you know, the best football experts we have involved around in that environment. But clearly, then, you know, they have to be a force for change within it too, because there's so much wrong with what's there right now.
It's interesting as well then if League of Ireland clubs can really benefit from selling players.
Well, that's
totally.
But that's part. Sorry, John. I mean, that's part of the. There's no doubt that even with the underage league stuff, I mean, I think people probably saw, well, this is great because, you know, you get hold of these players younger, that entitles you to more compensation just through the sort of the rules that are there. But it's not always that easy in practice, you know, because there would have been deals done that, well, you can play for our League of Ireland club, but you don't look for anything in a couple of years' time, you know, or you let them go for a reasonably cheap amount, and that's a sort of a cultural change and a shift. Yeah, like that would be the ideal world scenario. But again, I think even sometimes an obstacle to receiving, you know, proper transfer fees for players is sometimes people coming to this country, coming to watch these players, seeing the backdrops, seeing the environment, and they possibly don't think, yeah, this isn't as serious. You know, they might be as good a player as a player that they're looking at in Scandinavia, but it looks like they're coming from a much more established infrastructure, and as a result, that can probably impact on fees as well too. Cultural changes that don't just happen in 1 year or 2 years, and that's why it's unrealistic to expect too much too soon from Damien Duff, say, for example. But you're just hoping that it becomes
his presence will
regular.
just generate a natural interest that's wasn't there before. 2-0 now to Crystal Palace against Wolves. Last week Wilfred Zaha scored the first and Conor Gallagher scored the second, and this week Wilfred Zaha scored the first and Conor Gallagher scored the second. So Palace on a great run, 2-0 up against Wolves. Chelsea won, Burnley won. Burn equalising just moments ago through Matej Vydra. Brentford 1, Norwich 2. Latest score, Man United 0, Manchester City 2. Full-time score. I'm just going through the lineups here for Brighton against Newcastle. Shane Duffy is in the Brighton team, so that's good to see. Aaron Connolly not in the Ireland squad for the Portugal and Luxembourg games. Is that a surprise?
Yeah. I'm possibly surprised he's not in the squad. Now, there is a little bit of an injury thing that was being mentioned. I mean, I noticed he's not even on the bench for Brighton today, and he wasn't last weekend
Heel
either.
Injury, yeah.
But Graham Potter did suggest during the week that he'll be disappointed to be left out of Stephen Kenny's squad, as though it was a selection issue. So I think maybe reading between the lines, I think if Stephen Kenny desperately needed Aaron Connolly to be there next week, I don't think whatever issue he had would have stopped him. But clearly right now he's not that important in the sense that they need to pull out all the stops, because he didn't get a minute last month. And I think it's clear that Aaron Connolly didn't do well against Azerbaijan in September, and probably doesn't have the sharpness maybe at the moment to provide the service that Stephen Kenny wants from him. So to me, surprised he's not in the squad, but I wouldn't have expected him to play in either game, if you know what I mean, if he was in it.
What are we then expecting on Thursday? A valiant performance? Is it a case of Luxembourg being the be-all and end-all? I see Colin Robinson's playing today for...
Have you got a ticket yet, Johnny? This is the big issue.
No.
No. Johnny Ward, no ticket. Yeah.
How? Why?
No, well, actually, like unless I'm going to be a complete hypocrite here, as much as I work in Irish football, and I think I do my best to promote Irish football, I don't actually, up until the Stephen Kenny era, it wasn't all that common for me to go to Ireland matches home or away, because I just felt a bit of a disassociation. So when I used to give out about lads getting tickets for the All-Ireland final who were barely at a game all year, I can now go back and say I warrant a ticket for the Portugal game. But I genuinely really looking forward to JD. I think it's a kind of a good setup for Ireland here. It's a dead rubber, but they're going in very confident. And I think Portugal they're a good team for a Stephen Kenny team to face, because they have, as much as they've amazing talent up front, they're probably less than the sum of their parts, as any team with Ronaldo is in many respects nowadays, because he's going to be a problem outside the box. He was rubbish against Ireland for 89 minutes, obviously unbelievable for 5, but they show that they were very vulnerable at the back at times. I think our confidence is very, very high, and I don't know, Dan, when is the last time you remember Lansdowne Road absolutely rocking like
Germany?
This will be it.
Well, no, I think to be fair to the first 10 minutes of the playoff against Denmark that Ireland lost 5-1, it was amazing. I mean, you can't rewrite history completely because the game was lost.
Shane Duffy scored. They should have just put all the players behind the ball and just stayed there.
Wheels. Well, I think they tried to do that a bit, JD.
That's what we've been trying to do for 50 years.
I think that's what they tried to do. They just couldn't. They conceded a short corner.
Too early.
They conceded a short corner, and that was that. So there have been times, but so I think again, you can forget that. I mean, even the Denmark game, Mick McCarthy's last game, I mean, the last 10-15 minutes, Ireland were going for it. Matt Doherty scored. So, like that, I mean, again, I don't think.
So, are people going to see Ronaldo? Are they excited about Stephen Kenny? Or are they just that we haven't had a game? I think
there's a bit of everything. I think there's a bit of everything. I'm hearing the FAI Cup final, for example, the tickets are flying for that. So I think there is an element of people have missed.
People are so enthused because they're listening to the show every Saturday and they know that football is the beautiful game.
Listen, yeah. Well, I mean, that sounds like a half an hour's plea to give Johnny a ticket because he's contributed towards it. Don't give Johnny a ticket. Anyone out there? Don't give up your one. But I think there's a bit of everything. Listen, of course the Ronaldo aspect and that sort of the star-studded aspect of the team is massive. But then at the same time, 25,000 people did go to the Qatar game last month when some people thought there'd only be 10 at it. So I think the truth probably lies somewhere in between.
It's funny that the results are different to the seeming enjoyment and excitement of the supporters. So, as I said before, the supporters are more intelligent, that they understand that there are bigger issues at play than who actually is the manager.
And it's okay, sometimes we get very serious about what needs to happen and everything, but going to sport is entertainment for a lot of people, and they make their choices with their discretionary income to decide how to choose to spend it. And if they are enjoying going to these games as they have, maybe appreciate it more since the pandemic and it was taken away from them. The people, you remember, people forget this, that the FAI not going down a different road, they made such a balls of the Vantage Club and the sales for the Aviva, that when Ireland played in Croke Park prior to that, there would be massive crowds at sort of nondescript games. There'd be 50,000 people going to games against Montenegro and stuff. But what happened was, with the changeover and mistakes that were made, a lot of people got out of the habit of going, who traditionally would have gone to football, gone to Ireland matches. And I think there's always been the potential for it to ignite, and it maybe has needed this new era of players and people having a bit of a break from it to suddenly think, yeah, I want to be a part of this. But I think the Ronaldo angle and Portugal, of course, that still contributes to that's what gets you to 52. That's for sure.
Yeah, I haven't seen Ronaldo play in the flesh, for example, and I think a lot of people who haven't are saying, well, this is the chance or whatever, and
you still won't be.
Still won't be. Yeah, my nephew's a big Man United fan. He's 9 years of age, and his daddy wants to bring him to see Ronaldo as well because he knows it's his chance. But I think just briefly on the Irish thing, most football fans in this country, they're either from a League of Ireland background who kind of want Stephen Kenny to do well, or the vast majority who are not probably watch the Premier League week on week. And I think people got fed up of watching Ireland play bad football. I think they really did. And that's why I think they're refreshed by this. They want to give all these young players a chance. And they're actually, like, they want to be backing a team that is a bit of an underdog, but is actually trying to play and remove the shackles of being told by successive managers we're going to try and get results by playing a bad standard football. And I think that's been part of the fact why people have lost interest with the Irish national team, because we were horrible to watch for a long, long time.
And yet the thing about Thursday, though, as a game, and I think it's going to be the slight contrast, like in September, and I was over in Faro, and it was very impressive, but Ireland were the away side, and they managed to manage the situation as an away side very well and counter, and then clearly at home to Serbia was a poor performance. And they have to find, like, the best way for Ireland to play on Thursday will probably be to just try and play in the counter attack. But as a home side, executing that can be, you have an expectant crowd. There's a few angles to this game, and I'm sure it'll be talked about a lot between now and then. Portugal, by the way, don't even necessarily need to win the game. They just need to not lose it for the situation that they're in.
Johnny, best luck with getting that ticket. Thanks for today.
Thanks, JD.
And Dan, thank you.
Thank you.
Dan McDonnell and Johnny Ward there ahead of Ireland-Portugal and Ireland-Luxembourg. Plenty more discussion on OTB. Just to let you know before we go, scores in the Premier League. Chelsea won, Burnley won. It's just gone full time, so a draw there at Stamford Bridge. Earlier on, Man United 0, Manchester City 2. Brentford 1, Norwich 2 is the latest, and Crystal Palace 2, Wolves 0 is the latest. Brighton and Newcastle kick off at 5:30 in the Championship. Barnsley 0, Hull 2. These are all latest scores. Blackburn 3, Sheffield United 1, Bournemouth 3, Swansea 0, Cardiff 1, Huddersfield 1. It is Coventry 2, Bristol City 2, Luton 0, Stoke 1. It is Millwall 1, Derby 1. Nottingham Forest have beaten Preston 3-0. Peterborough 0, Fulham 1, West Brom 1, Middlesbrough 1, and Birmingham 1, Reading 0. Thanks for listening today, folks. Just to let you know, we're back tomorrow from 1 until 7, showcasing 2 live and exclusive Premier League commentary games. First up, Everton against Spurs. Bernard O'Toole and Brian Kerr calling that one. Then Joe Malloy and Keith Tracy will describe the action as West Ham play Liverpool. All on the FM here on News Talk from 1. Also the Sunday paper review with Bernard Jackman and Orla McElroy across the OTB social and digital channels from 11:30. So be sure to join us for some great conversation and commentaries tomorrow. If you missed any of OTB Football Saturday with Mark Lawrenson, Dan McDonnell and Johnny Ward, you'll be able to find a podcast on the OTB Sports app. Search OTB Sports in your app store now to download the app for iOS and Android, or listen back wherever you get your pods. Thanks so much for listening this afternoon. We'll speak tomorrow at 1. Bye-bye.
This weekend on News Talk, we're getting ready for Science Week, running from November 7th to 14th. Supported by Science Foundation Ireland. Discover how to get involved and have your say in the Government of Ireland's Creating Our Future campaign at newstalk.com/Science Week.
Tonight is your online date. Will the profile picture be true? You need to get dressed up, get dressed up. Laundry so clean, soft and fresh. Now your clothes look at their best. Bold. Always believe love may grow. Or pretend that you gotta go. You are bold.
Try Bold all-in-one pods for a brilliant clean with built-in softener. Always keep away from children.
Now at Power City, you can try the latest Bosch food processors, mixers and blenders with a full 90-day money-back guarantee. For more information, go online to powercity.ie or call in store today.
Enjoy effortless entertainment with Sky Broadband and Sky TV for just €50 a month. Wow! So you can get lightning fast speeds around the home for all your